Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be talking about solving quadratic equations, and let's begin with something that looks like this. X squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. So this guy has a squared term, an x term, and a constant term. So things that look like that require two steps to solve. Number one, we have to make equal to 0 if it's not already. Here it's already equal to 0, so that's good. The second step is we always try to factor if we can. Now, sometimes we can't factor, and when we can't factor, we have to use a quadratic equation. So let's see if this guy's going to factor. We're going to circle that 10. I'm going to make my list of factors of 10, 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Let's do negatives 2. All of these numbers multiply to be positive 10. The one that we want is the pair that adds up to be negative 7, and these guys will fit there. So we're going to rewrite this now as x minus 2, x minus 5 equals 0. Now the two numbers that satisfy this equation are 2 and 5, and they satisfy it because if I was to plug in the number 2 here into this step, 2 minus 2 is 0, and then 0 times whatever that is 0. Or if I was to plug in 5 minus 2 is something, but the one we care about is 5 minus 5, which is 0, and we'll make everything 0. And we can also plug these equations into this top equation, and it's also going to work. 5 squared minus 7 times 5 plus 10 is going to be the same thing as 25 minus 35 plus 10, which is equal to 0. Now you can check your solutions graphically as well. Let's go ahead and plug this into Desmos and just make sure we get the same thing. So if I write this here in Desmos, we're going to do x squared minus 7x plus 10. And we take a look here. It goes through these 2 points. When x is 2, y is 0, and when x is 5, y is 0. So your two solutions to the equation are 2 and 5. Okay, this one is for you to solve now. X squared minus 6x minus 16. Go ahead and give that a go. Okay, so your first thing should be to try to factor. So let's make a list of factors of negative 16. 1 and negative 16, 2 and negative 8, 3 doesn't go into it, 4 and negative 4. All right, I could do some more combinations, but I'm already seeing the one that I want, the 2 and the negative 8. So we're going to do x plus 2, x minus 8 equals 0. I should have been equals 0 there. And so my solutions are negative 2 and 8. Let's go ahead and drop this guy into Desmos and see if we get the same answer here. So here, this is going to be x squared minus 6, minus 6x minus 16. Let's zoom out. And yep, here's the solutions, negative 2 and 8. Okay, now let's do something that's in a different form. Let's do something that looks like this, x squared plus 2x. Now notice I've only got an x squared term, I've only got an x term, and we're going to set that equal to 0. Now there's two steps. Number one, we have to make it equal to 0, and in this case it already is, so that makes it easy. Now the second step, we have to factor. Now, unlike the first example we did, these types of questions will always be able to factor. Okay, so to factor these, let's look at what x squared is really made up of. X squared is xx, 2x is 2x. The thing they both have in common is an x. And so we're going to write that there. And now all the leftovers get dropped into here. We're just doing the distributive property backwards, and in fact you can use the distributive property to check. X times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x. Okay, so we've got it, we made it equal to 0, we factored it, and so here our solutions are going to be x equals 0 and x equals negative 2. And the reason these are solutions is because if I was to drop them into the equation, let me switch my colors here, then I'm going to have 0 times 0 plus 2, which is 0 times 2. 0 times 2 is going to be 0. So 0 is a solution. And if I was going to replace this now with 2, or negative 2, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. And so those are the two numbers that make 0. Okay, we can also, like before, plug this into Desmos and check to see if it works. And yeah, you can see your solutions, negative 2 and 0. Okay, let's give this one a try. Go ahead and do this one on your own. Let's do x squared minus 4x equals 0. Okay, you factor in x, so your two solutions are 0 and 4. At this stage, you can just, it's called solve by inspection. You can just look at it and say, oh yeah, the solutions are 0 and 4. Remember, the sign here is going to flip. Okay, so we've done the first type equation, the second type. Now let's go and do the third type you might come across. Let's say you've got something like this. X squared minus 25 equals 0. Now, two different ways of solving this. One way you can do this is you can factor this. X minus 5, x plus 5 equals 0. And then flip the sign to 5, flip the sign to negative 5, and here are your solutions. Now, another way of solving this is you can add, in this case, 25 to both sides. So x squared equals 25. And now we can take the square root. Now here when we take the square root, it's not any ordinary square root, it is a plus minus square root. And so our answer is going to be plus minus 5. That plus minus is really important, and the plus minus just means 5 comma negative 5. Okay, let's go ahead and do this one on your own. X squared minus 16 equals 0. Okay, so probably the easiest thing to do here is to add 16 to both sides. X squared equals 16. Take the square root, but remember it's a plus minus. So you get x equals plus minus 4. Now, every time you solve these, you can always go back to your original equation, plug in the solutions, and see if they work. Let's try this here. 4 squared minus 16 is 0, so that works. Let's try negative 4. Negative 4 squared minus 16 is 0. Okay, so both of those work. All right, let's go and talk about the next type of thing. Now, remember the very first example we did looked like this. You've got x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. And we got two really nice solutions here. X equals 2, x equals 5. Now, let's look at this on a graph here really quick. Go back here to Desmos, and we've got x squared minus 7x plus 10. Okay, and you've got your two solutions here, 2 and 5. Now, what if I were to raise this parabola, raise this quadratic up 1 unit? How's that going to look? Let's just take a look at this. Instead of plus 10, let's do like that. Actually, we lowered it down a little bit. Okay, in this case, you can see these are not going to be nice even numbers. That means we're not going to be able to factor this. And we could, see that from this thing. Let me go back here. If we had written something like this, then you can't factor that, right? So x squared minus 7x plus 9, that doesn't factor. So here we've got to use the quadratic equation. Quadratic equation, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, what I recommend we do here is we write down a, b, and c. A is 1, b is negative 7, c is 9. And I'm going to rewrite my quadratic equation, but I'm going to include some big placeholders here for each of those terms. And I'm just going to slot things in here. So I'm going to replace a. So in my equation, this negative b, I can write negative 7. Now there's a negative sign here already, but I still have to write the negative 7 because it's a negative 7. All right, here, we're going to put a negative 7 in here. This is a 1, this is a 9, all of that over that. Okay, so we're going to clean this up here. And when we clean it up, we are going to get negative 7 is going to turn into positive 7, plus or minus the square root of negative 7 squared is negative 7 times negative 7, positive 49, minus 4 times 1 times 9 is going to be 36, all over 2 times 1 is 2. So then 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 36 is 13, all over 2. And this would be your final answer. Now what this really means is two different solutions. It means a solution 7 plus the square root of 13 over 2 and the solution 7 minus the square root of 13 all over 2. And yeah, we can just check that in Desmos and see if that works here. So in Desmos, let's type in that point. So the point is going to be negative 7 plus the square root of 13 all over 2. And you can check that's negative 1.69 something, and that point right there matches that. And if we were to change this plus now to a minus, then we get negative 5.3, which is that guy. Or positive 5.3. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I wrote on. Okay, so we get a positive 1.69 there, and if we change this sign, we get a positive 5.3. Okay, here's one for you to do. Let's do this. Let's do 2. Yeah. 2x squared minus 9x plus 4 equals 0. Okay, go ahead and solve that out. All right, so a equals 2, b equals negative 9, c equals 4. The quadratic equation is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So right here we're going to do negative 9 plus or minus the square root of negative 9 squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, cleaning this up a little bit, let's see what we get. Negative 9 means a positive 9, plus or minus the square root of 9 squared is 81. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 4 is 32, all over 4. All right, so 9 plus or minus the square root of, let's see, what's that going to be? 49, all over 4. That's going to be 9 plus or minus 7 over 4, which is the same. We gotta break this up into two different things. That's 9 minus 7 over 4, and that's 9 plus 7 over 4. 9 minus 7 is 2 over 4. 9 plus 7 is 16 over 4. And we're almost done. Our solutions here are going to be 1/2 and 4. Okay, let's do another one here. 6x squared plus 13x plus 2. Okay, go ahead and give that a try. Okay, let's check your answer. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So negative b, 13 squared is 169, 4 times 6 is 24, 24 times 2 is 48, all over 12. Negative 13 plus or minus, that's going to be 121, all over 12. And that's going to get us down to negative 13. Square root of 121 is 11. And now breaking this into the two different cases, plus 11 over 12, negative 13 minus 11 over 12. That's going to be negative 13 plus 11 is going to be negative 2 over 12. Then right here, there's going to be negative 24 over 12. This is going to be negative 1/6. And this is going to be negative 2. Okay, let's do another one. X squared minus 8x plus 1. Now this one's got a little bit of extra work at the end, so I want to do this one, and then I'll give you one last one to try. Okay, so we're going to put in the quadratic equation, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4, a is 1, c is 1, all over 2a. So negative 8 is positive 8, plus or minus the square root of 8 squared is 64, minus 4, all over 2. All right, so let's take that next step here. 8 plus or minus the square root of 60 over 2. Now, this is correct, but it's not in the simplest form. We have to simplify that number if we can. And let's see if we can simplify that square root. So what is 60? 60 is the same thing as 6 times 10. And 6 is 2 times 3, 10 is 2 times 5. So the square root of 60 is the same thing as the square root of 2 times 3 times 2 times 5. And I can write that a little bit differently. I can write that as 2, 2, 3, 5. All over 2. Okay, now remember the rule with square roots. If you see two of the exact same number under the square root, then one of them can pop out over there. And so we're going to do just that here. We're going to rewrite this now as 8 plus or minus 2 square roots of 15 over 2. Okay, now we're still not done yet. There's one little bit of simplification we can do. 8 and 2 are both divisible by 2. 2 and 2 are divisible by 2. So this is the same thing as 8 over 2 plus or minus 2 square roots of 15 over 2. And that simplifies 8 over 2 as 4, and these 2's cancel out. And so that is your final answer in the simplest form. Okay, now here's another one that's going to have the same kind of simplification at the end. X squared plus 6x plus 7. Okay, go give that a try. Okay, so let's go solve this really quick. Negative 6 plus or minus 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 7 all over 2 times 1. So negative 6 plus or minus 36 minus 4 all over 2, which is negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 32 over 2, which, get some more space here, it's the same thing as negative 6 plus or minus, now what's 32? 32 is 2 times 16, which is 2 times 8, which is 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2, so 32 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 2's. Okay, now I've got a pair, so 1, 2 can pop out. I've got a pair, another 2 can pop out. So rewriting this, I've got 6 plus or minus 2, 2 square roots of 2 over 2, which is negative 6 plus or minus 4 square roots of 2 over 2, which is the same thing as negative 6 over 2 plus or minus 4 square roots over 2, just breaking apart that division sign. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3, plus or minus 4 over 2 is 2, 2 square roots of 2. Okay, that's it for today, guys. Send me a message in Canvas if you got any questions.